Some people are overlooking where I mention that I'm intentionally expressive verbally and physically during S3X acts with her. I make it very clear that I like the way she's doing X, Y, Z, as mentioned. If I increased my communication during the act, I'd feel like I'm literally performing her instead of actually enjoying it and expressing myself organically. We've had conversations in the past about how she likes loud S3X, so I intentionally make all the moans, grunts, ohs, and tell her how I love the way she XXX my XXX, or you look so say 3Y with my X in your X. My wife 33F asks me 39 meters for details after S3X and sexual acts. For example, after she performs a S3X act on me, she asks if I liked it. Then she asks what was my favorite part. She also asks what I liked about it and what was I thinking while she was pleasing me. I do a very good job giving her verbal and non-verbal feedback during and I think if I increase the feedback I end up being in my head, focusing on what to say and do rather than being present and enjoying her. I admit that I give very basic answers to her questions. Like if she asks how it felt, I usually reply excellent. She sometimes asks specifically for 2 to 3 adjectives. It really makes me feel a little weird. I've never been asked questions like this in past relationships. And I think it's because it's obviously based on my verbal cues and body language. Is it common to ask these types of questions after being pleasure? Especially being asked what were my thoughts during the experience and being asked to give 2 to 3 adjectives. I'm not very talkative and I usually answer questions with the least amount of words necessary. However, I'm very intentional with being vocal during S3X because it makes it more enjoyable. For my wife, not so much for me. If I do more, I'd feel like I'm performing in an adult film. When we met, I understood that she really loves and enjoys animals. I don't have a problem with that. The amount we have keeps growing even if I am struggling with it. Currently we have 4 dogs, a paralyzed goat, 3 ferrets, a hamster, and a blue-tongued skink that live in the home. I'm struggling with the amount of feces and messes created by the goat and the ferrets. The goat we have diapers for and change them regularly, but it's still not helping. We want a family, but I cannot handle the idea of the child crawling around the house in that mess. My partner works very long days, so a lot of this cleaning and chores fall back on me and it's burning me out. Because of this I'm struggling to see a future and I'm looking to try and identify some sort of a compromise so I can be happy to be home again and she can still have her animals that she loves. Parting with Annie will not be an option for her. Even though I knew she would want a lot of animals in her life, I didn't realize what that would actually be like and I'm starting to feel like I can't handle it. Full disclosure, I purchased a house for us and at that time we only had the 4 dogs and were far happier as a couple. My partner 28 meters wanted a car because of his long commute. But we had no savings, so his mom offered to pay for it, and we'd pay her back. I 26F was fine with a basic, affordable car. But he insisted on a more expensive one and we agreed on between $10,000 and $12,000. I had specific requests, like no fancy gadgets to keep the cost down. His mom surprised us by saying she'd buy the car over the weekend. I was stunned and didn't know how to react. Since I was leaving on vacation that same weekend, I hoped my boyfriend would consider my preferences while I was away with friends. They joked about me picking the color while they decided the rest. I wanted to object but didn't want to spoil the moment. Since we were not alone and we were also with friends, I expected his mom to give us the money or join the car shopping, but not substitute me during it. During my trip, they chose a $20,000 car, which I initially refused. His mom called me selfish, saying it's for my partner's long commute. After a short conversation over the phone and no other options, I reluctantly agreed because my partner and his mother insisted. When I returned, the car had unnecessary gadgets, was double the budget, and not what I wanted. I thanked his mom but felt extremely disappointed with my partner. We're now in a $20,000 loan, and I'm unsure I'm wrong or how to proceed. It's been a week and I can't really forgive my partner. How do I go around this? I feel very resentful and would like to stop feeling this way. Any help? My fiancé and I had an important appointment this morning at 9 a.m. We both agreed to wake up at 06 for 5 to give ample time for us to get ready. I got up and made us both coffee. I asked her if she wanted breakfast, and told me she wasn't hungry. During the morning, my fiancé made an unplanned phone call, which lasted for maybe 30 minutes. It was maybe 08:20 and I'm nearly ready to go. I walked to the kitchen to check up on my fiancé and see she's getting breakfast. She is about to microwave last night's rice, a large amount. This is where our issue begins. I said to her something along the lines of, "Oh, I was going to use half of that for dinner tonight." To which she said to me, "Can't you just cook more?" And you know what? She was right. And I reply, "Yeah, you're right, sure." She asked, "Do I have time to eat breakfast?" A bit unsure. I said maybe. "But you'd have to wolf it down, I reckon." I head downstairs to get ready to leave the house. My fiancé comes down a few moments later and we head out at 08:30. She was being quiet on our walk to the appointment and looked irritated. I trying my best to make conversation and to get her to open up a bit, just the normal stuff, making jokes, etc. I know something was off, so eventually I asked her directly if something is wrong. I can't recall exactly what either of us said exactly, but our conversation went something along the line of,
"I'm just upset that I didn't get to eat breakfast. I had no idea she hadn't eaten the rice after all I thought she had. I was feeling some blame being pointed in my direction, and honestly was just a bit confused."
"Well, love, you had plenty of time this morning and you told me you weren't hungry earlier. You could have had breakfast before we left. There was plenty of time, no."
"Why are we leaving so early? Why are we walking there? Why aren't we getting the bus? The bus would take only 15 minutes. You didn't let me have breakfast, I don't know." I felt like I was being blamed. Perhaps I shouldn't have felt like that, but her low mood felt so excessive. I know her well, and that was the impression I was getting from her. She also basically said it.
"Well, the appointment is at 9 a.m. and it's important. I thought we don't want to risk missing it. Isn't that why we agreed to get up at 06 for 5? So we had time. I don't know why we're not getting the bus. I'm not sure it's any faster. You could have mentioned all of this before if it's important to you." "Well, the appointment is at 9 a.m. and it's important. I thought we don't want to risk missing it. Isn't that why we agreed to get up at 06 for 5? So we had time. I don't know why we're not getting the bus. I'm not sure it's any faster. You could have mentioned all of this before if it's important to you. If getting breakfast is that important, then you have made sure you gave yourself enough time. Was leaving 5 minutes earlier than we would do otherwise really the issue here? You told me you weren't hungry and then you had a 30 minutes telephone conversation. Take some responsibility instead of blaming me. I'm hungry and I feel too tired to walk. I'm going back and then getting the bus. I need space." I tell her that's fine. Not wanting to be pushy, I leave her be and walk the rest of the way. I walk there and arrive maybe 10 minutes before 9. My fiancé rides after 5 minutes. We're 5 minutes early for our appointment. I ask her how the rice was and she says that she didn't eat any and got the bus straight here in the end. I suggest we go get breakfast in the city after our appointment. We have our 10-minute appointment and we head outside after. My fiancé sits me down after we get food and tells me she wants to talk about what just happened this morning. I'm all for open communication, welcome the discussion, and agree we need it. The whole morning just seemed silly to me, and I felt that mountains were being made out of molehills. My fiancé sits me down and tells me that she was upset this morning on our walk was because I told her that I was going to use the rice for dinner tonight. She didn't like that I told her that, and that I wasn't being very understanding as a person and that I shouldn't nitpick over food. That's it. I told her I understood her point, that I can nitpick at times and that I'm working on it. Today I was understanding and reminded her that I immediately backtracked and agreed to make more rice for her this evening. I cook for her every day I can because I love cooking and love making her happy with food. I told her that for her to get so upset over that and being in such a low mood over it was making mountains out of molehills. I tried reminding her that this is just the everyday stuff that happens in every relationship, that we just need to remind ourselves of what's important in the grand scheme of things. Then she Asks me if we're ready to get married, which came as an absolute shocker to me. I didn't know what to say. I'd never questioned it and thought everything was going great. I agreed about feeling unsure in that moment. Because I don't want to commit to someone who isn't sure themselves, and she certainly didn't seem to be in that moment. It was very sudden. She went to work shortly after. I don't really have anybody in my personal life to talk to this about. And I feel like I need to reach out for a third-person perspective. I feel humiliated for having to come to Reddit for advice, no offense, but here I am. Was I out of line? I felt like I immediately agreed she should just eat the rice and it's not a big deal. I am not kidding myself. I think it's pretty obvious this has nothing to do with the rice. I was going to suggest we get relationship counseling. I don't want to call off our wedding. I love this woman with all my heart. I just want to hear some other perspectives out, thanks. My fiancée got upset about me saying I was saving rice for dinner tomorrow. Now she seems unsure about our entire relationship.